Welcome, guys, to ZCT number 16. Today we have a pretty exciting topic, in my opinion, because it's one of those things where Matt and I have had many virtual discussions about this over the years. And we just have a lot of opinions on this particular topic, but we've never voiced them on the channel before. And I think a lot of people would be interested in hearing what we have to say about this.
And I think the thing about this typical topic is that a lot of people have conversations about this too. Anyone who's a car enthusiast, they can get excited on this subject, or maybe disappointed as well.
Yeah.
So why don't you cue in and tell us what we're going to talk about today?
So today's topic is going to be concept cars. So if anyone reads Jalopnik, Autoblog, Drive back when they were super popular, Motor Trend, like always the concept cars that get either leaked or announced. They always make headlines. These different journalist blogs and things.
It's like the clickbait back in the day.
Yeah, clickbait. And granted, a lot of these concepts never come to fruition, or worst case, they're just like they end up just being like total clickbait, where it's just like someone who renders up something and like throws it out there, and the internet goes crazy. But so over the years, at least I have learned to keep my expectations in check with regards to concepts. And I think one of the big things that we're going to find out when we get into this topic is that like a lot of times, even the real concepts that the manufacturers create end up looking nothing like the real thing once the real thing comes out.
Right.
So today we've selected just like a good number of concepts that we've seen over the past few years. And to make this interesting, both Matt and I are going to rate each concept on a score of 1 to 10, just based purely on, how it looks. And then for those concepts that actually got turned into production cars, we're going to rate the production versions. And I think this will show my point that like the production car very rarely ever meets the expectation that's set by the concept.
Right. It's like the expectation versus reality memes or whatever. So that's kind of what we're going to go for. But before we cue in and jump into it, what is the main concept that was recently announced that actually prompted this discussion?
I think you guys can probably guess. It's yet another rumor of an S2000, a new S2000 replacement. And I don't know what was the source of this latest rumor, but it's like kind of just a rehash of the existing rumor that like it's going to come out and it's going to use a Civic Type R engine. It's going to be turbocharged. It's still going to be a Roadster and whatnot. And I'm just kind of over that. Like I'll believe it when I see it.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. So you'll probably flash up the pictures that we're looking at, but we have it down here on a screen here. And so the first one is the WRX.
Why don't you start? Because I know you felt very strongly about this.
So I was a huge Shuby dude. I always wanted to get into them, but I never had the opportunity. And, the WRX concept that came out, it got everyone super excited.
And this was like, about I think 2013 or 14, like because the first gen of the first model year of the new WRX was like 2015 model year.
Right.
Probably right around that 2014 era that the concept came out.
So like they were phasing out the hatchback, and people were thinking, oh, what are they going to do with the WRX? It's like on the X platform, it needs to be upgraded. And then they came out with this, and everyone got super excited. I got excited.
We were both like,
I was like, oh, that looks so good. And you have all these pictures up on it. It's just bringing back those memories of the day it was announced.
Yeah.
I was like, man, got to go take a loan out or something.
Yeah.
Get ready to get into this. But then the actual car came out.
Oh, this is, I think, on the list of cars we have, this is the most disappointed I've ever been by a concept, like the expectation versus reality.
Right. And just looking at it right now, like I'll assess the score of the concept, that came out like, oh, that's a 9 for sure. At
9
least.
out of 10?
Yeah, 9 out of 10, maybe 10 out of 10, but don't want to go to the ceiling already.
Yeah.
But, it just looks so great. It looks kind of like, I don't know, planted and like ready to go. And let's
talk about some of the design elements that makes it look so good. To me, it reminds me almost like of the BMW M3. Right. Like the E92 M3.
Okay,
the current gen M4, in that it's like you can tell it's not a dedicated sports car. Like it's built on a normal car, like a 3 Series, or in this case a Impreza platform. But it's got those super wide fender flares. It's lowered. It's got those big wheels. It's got the aggressive, front grille. Like it just looks like just a really aggressive version of a somewhat normal car.
Yeah, I agree, and it just looks like, I like the wideness of it. It definitely. And now just looking at the rear, man, that looks so good.
Yeah.
And I think it's just in general, like, it just looks wider to the eye compared to the actual one. Yeah. And so when the real one came out, I was like, ugh. And it even kind of drew some hate when it first came out. I think a lot of people comparing it to the Evo. They're like, oh, they're just copying the Evo, and then people are like, just replacing the logo, with with the Mitsubishi logo or whatever, or something like that. So, but yeah, everyone got super excited for it, and then and no hate to the ones who bought the car. I mean, if that image didn't exist, I still would think that the WRX is a good.
I mean, you were before you got your Fiesta ST, you were strongly considering.
Yeah, I test drove one and everything,
yeah,
and it just came down to cost or whatever, but it's still a good-looking car, but just it's unfortunate that the concept came out and everyone got super hyped for it, and then the downfall of it just looked completely different.
The real car just looks a lot more like a normal Impreza, and like the main thing that I don't like is that you see how the rear fenders, the quarter panels, it no longer has those like the boxy arches, the flares. It's just like it's the narrow body in the back.
You associate that wide body with those flares that kind of stick out, and the wheels fit perfectly underneath, and like it's flush, and you don't really get that, like I said, wideness,
right,
with the actual car.
So why don't you rate the actual car?
So I guess we're gonna rate actuality versus concept. I would probably give it a 5, but like if the concept didn't exist, it'd probably be like maybe a 6.5.
Yeah.
What about you? What would you give it?
I actually would give it the exact same score. Like, I would give the concept a 9. It's probably the best looking. If it came out looking just like the concept, that'd be the best looking Subaru of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then the real car's solid 5. No hate to WRX owners. I think it's a proven car in terms of what it can do. But
absolutely.
Looks wise, I'm sorry guys, you got not the best looking.
You got the shaft in terms of the concepts, and I mean, and to be fair, we always got to keep in conscious, like concepts versus reality. There's standards that you need to meet with, safety, and all these things that you need to put into a car that you don't have to put on a concept car. So look, even in this picture, the door handles I mean, you're not going to have flat door handles on a, a mid-priced sedan. You're just not going to have.
That's a good point, and that's I think one of the key reasons why expectation versus reality, the delta exists, is because of things like crash safety regulations and production costs and things like that. The concept, they can just go wild.
Oh yeah, it's just it's a one-off, and they're not going to put it into production, so just make it look as cool and keep you. I mean, the reason why they do concept, another reason is to be in the news cycle, right? You got to stay relevant. Your name still has to be out there, and so when you do all these have all these companies doing these one-offs, it's to keep them relevant. So that's also why you got to make it. They go all out.
They gotta make it spicy.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the WRX. So what's on this next one?
So the next one is what we just talked about in the beginning of the video, which is the S2000, and this is actually nothing new. Okay. This is it was, I think, a leaked patent that came out. I forget exactly when. I think it was within the past 3 years. That someone found, I guess, that Honda had submitted as a patent. And they didn't say it's an S2000, but essentially what it is it's a smaller version of the new NSX.
Okay.
It's clearly mid-engine. It clearly shares some of the same design elements as the NSX, but it's obviously smaller, and it's, presumably cheaper. So people were thinking, hey, that might be the S2000 replacement.
Okay.
Obviously, it never came to fruition, and this is a rumor that's been recycled and updated over the past few years. So there's a lot of fan renderings of this car that actually look really good. I have one on here, actually. This one right here.
Oh, yeah, it does look really good.
Can you imagine if that's what the next S2K looked like?
I feel like it would eat the C8's lunch in terms of popularity, almost.
At least amongst the JDM fans.
Yeah, it would be JDM versus USDM or whatever. But that front grille, I mean, obviously it's the essence of the NSX, the new one, right? I mean, but that just looks so clean.
Yeah. So if I had to rate just what was leaked as a patent, I mean, there's not really a whole lot going here.
It's just a render, right?
It's black and white, not a whole lot. But if I were to rate that, I would give that like a 9.5 out of 10.
Okay, yeah,
like that is exactly what I would want to see from a new S2000.
Yeah, that, I mean, that's just it's just a modern S, you know, like what an S would look like if it came out now. Which, I mean, the person who did this did a great job. I think I would not rate it as highly right now because it's not like the WRX that actually came out with a physical car.
True.
So I'd probably give it, I mean, it still looks beautiful, don't get me wrong. So I'd probably give it an 8.
An 8. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I would give that. Ben. And I like blue, so that's probably giving points to that as well.
Although I don't know if you scroll between this, the actual patent,
okay,
because that's clearly mid-engine because it has the long rear.
Yeah, the front, it looks like almost FR in this next picture.
That looks more FR to me. So I don't know if that's just like a different rendition of it, or
maybe someone just took some, some creative liberties and just like, oh, this is what I want an S to look like, kind of thing. But
exactly.
Yeah.
So all right. So why don't you queue up the next one here?
Okay. So this next one, what do we got? Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of excited. Well, okay. This is the IDX for that Nissan announced. I forgot how long ago it was.
This is like 2013 or 14.
And like, kind of riding the same, wave of concepts. We saw the Subaru and then we saw this. This was pretty cool because it's an homage to the Fairlady Z. Or no, not the Fairlady Z. The Z concept car.
The Datsun 510.
Yeah, the Datsun 510, not the Z cars. And I like the 80s boxy cars, like the 510. That would be so cool to build one up. You know, I think you've driven one that was
crazy, the SR swapped one.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's such a cool looking car. And then they came out with this. I was like, oh man, that's another one. You're like, for me, cracking open the wallet if they came out with something like that. And I think there's actual different pictures than this. This is not. I don't think this one does it complete justice. But
that one's a little better.
That one's a little better. And I think there'd just be a really cool, car to own. The problem is it's just a 2-door. It almost looks like a family car 2-door. Yeah, but like a family car is supposed to be convenient. Yeah, it had more than two doors. But I think it looks pretty cool. Yeah.
It's unfortunate that still nothing has surfaced in terms of the actual production version.
Yeah,
but it was a really cool exercise in just like design for Nissan. It'd be a shame if this didn't come out at some point.
I totally agree. And I think oh gosh, that looks so good. I mean,
except for that automatic.
Yeah, it's not. They put in a little auto transmission.
Yeah,
but I hope Nissan comes out with more stuff. I know they came out. We just talked about the 400.
Yeah.
But I really want them to do well. Yeah. But they're kind of struggling with their identity as a company.
I agree.
And who knows? Maybe they'll put out concepts for other stuff. But it's a shame that this one didn't come to fruition.
Yeah. So what would you rate?
This one, I'm not a huge fan of the color scheme. I think I've seen other renders.
Yeah, there's other color
IDX is some with like a number on the side or something.
Yeah.
I'd probably give this like a 7, a solid 7.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, solid 7. It's a good looking car, but the color's kind of weird.
Yeah, the beige isn't doing it justice.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
Just throw it in orange, like Datsun 510 orange, or any of those colors, like the one you test drove or the one that you reviewed back in the day.
Yeah.
That would be super sick. So.
Yep.
All right. What's next?
Next up. Ooh, this is one of my favorites on the list. The Mazda RX Vision. And I think this is around 2015, 2014 as well. So the whole idea behind this car is, Mazda was known in the 80s and 90s for their rotary engine, the RX-7, all 4 generations, and then the RX-8, loved among like enthusiasts all over the world. Mazda took those cars racing. There's a legendary, Le Mans prototype 787B, which that car just crushed everything back in the day. Yeah. And so this was so the rotary got discontinued after the RX-8.
Right.
Mazda hadn't brought it back in, over a decade, I think, at that point. So this was their idea of a new rotary powered sports car. And when it came out, literally everyone, especially the JDM fanboys, were like foaming at the mouth, like ready to just dip into that savings account for this thing.
Look at that. Yeah.
Look at it. It's got that really unique, like super long hood, front engine, rear drive looking, silhouette with where the cabin's like very far back. And it speaks for itself. Just look at this thing. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It kind of is like a modern day like Toyota 2000 GT.
Yes.
Kind of just like that Roadster, like like you said, that long nose, like Jaguar-esque, you know, like if you take this on the road, you're like, hey, I'm a boss.
Yeah, you kind of making up, like you're making up for something, but
yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's got that long nose like GT car proportion.
Yeah,
like it reminds
GT,
me of like you said, Jaguar or like Aston Martin, like that type of design.
Gosh, that would be so awesome if it came out. But the Wankel is like,
yeah,
you know, like there's so many things against it that I don't know if they like, and this is nothing with concepts and clickbait and news articles. They always say, "Oh yeah, new word of a Wankel coming out or a rotary coming out," and it's just like every time I just roll my eyes, I'm like, "No, this is not going to happen." I wish it would, but there's just no place in the market with the shrinking consumer sports market for that. There's no one's going to buy it, right? Yeah. So, but man, for me, if we were going to rate this. Oh man, I would say almost as close to a 10, but I gotta not give a 10 yet because maybe there's something else. But it's up there because that looks awesome to me. Yeah.
And just one more thing on the Wankel, you know, Mazda was saying when this concept came out that they were going to develop like a Sky Active version of the rotary, and it would be.
That's right.
I don't know what was different about it.
To be more efficient, or
something. More efficient.
And, you know, they were addressing the problems of why it wasn't a Wankel didn't exist at the time.
Exactly. They were going to make it actually worth it to build one, but I mean. 5 years later.
Yeah, exactly. It's not here. So
so you gave it a what?
Like 9.75.
9.75. All right. Okay. After seeing this car, I'm gonna go back and say that S2000 concept. I'm gonna drop that to a 9, and I'm gonna give that a 9.5 because that looks better. Yeah, hands down.
And it's something that's in the flesh.
Yeah,
kind of thing, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. What's this next one we got?
Ooh. Yeah.
I know there's a reason why I left a number available, but go ahead.
All right, so I'll start with this one. So Toyota FT-1 concept. This came out a few years ago. Obviously, we have the real version of this car now. It's the 2020 Supra. Not a whole lot to say about this car that hasn't already been said. I actually saw, we both saw this car at Pebble Beach.
Yep, concourse. It was on the lawn where a lot of concepts get thrown onto. And we saw it in silver or gray, like a metallic-y gray. And it was awesome. It was a
breathtakingly beautiful car.
Yeah, and like, you know, when they first came out with it, I was like getting super excited for the Supra, and then it kind of just went away for a bit out of the news cycle. And then we got the actual Supra to come out. Yeah. And we can get on with the scores and stuff, but my reaction to it when the actual one came out was, no offense to the actual Supra owners out there, kind of like the WRX. It's just like, for me, I really just fell in love with that FT1. Yeah. And it kind of, for me, what I like about it design-wise, it's kind of almost Batmobile-esque.
Oh, yeah.
You got that front, you got the huge, I don't know if it's actual, you know, functioning aero and everything in the front, who knows, but it just looked like, you know, you're going to be a superhero.
Like the fender arches are just so wide and the car sits so low. Like when we saw it in person, it was like one of the lowest cars I've ever seen. Yeah, yeah. No way it was. I knew no way it was ever going to make it to production at that ride height with that big of a the
fender get stuck on a leaf. You know, driving over a leaf. So, oh man, but yeah, if ever I'm just going to give it a score. This is my 10. Yeah, I'm a huge Yoda fanboy. You know, but yeah, this is like my 10 for concept cars.
Okay.
Oh gosh, look at the rear.
Yeah, the rear is so good with that the wing that pops out.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's just superhero car.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're just flashing through the photos and just and then obviously like look at this is like, where's the trunk? There's no trunk right here, right? So like they get away with things that, you know, a concept car can get away with, but a production value car, boom, you can't do it. Like, there's no trunk. I just realized this. You know, I haven't been looking that closely. It's been a while, but
there's no trunk line.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a 10 out of 10 for you. How about I forgot to include pictures of the actual Supra, but we know what it looks like. What would you give that? You know what? I still think, you know, the production model's still pretty good. I'd give it like a 7.5. Okay. Knowing that we're measuring the kind of the delta between concept and reality. Yes. It's not as severe, obviously, as the WRX. Yeah. But it's still, I think with almost every concept to reality, I'm going to be a little more disappointed. So the fact that it's only, you know, like 2.5 point difference is actually a you know, I'm saying good things about it. Good things about that. Yeah, absolutely. So 7.5 for me. What about you for both? Yeah, I would agree. I would say that I would give the concept a 9.5. Right. So it ties, for me, it ties the Mazda RX Vision.
Sure.
And I would give the real Supra
You've seen more in person and driven them.
I've driven, yeah. I would give the real Supra a 7. So also a 2.5 point delta. What I do really appreciate is that even though the actual car looks nothing as amazing as the concept, it still takes almost every single design element into account. It's just like way watered down.
Right. It's like probably not as extreme to fit regulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still a good looking car.
And I mean, people will probably disagree with me. I still feel like, I know it's a Supra and it's supposed to take over the Supra, have the homage to the old Supra.
Yeah.
I feel like it's what you would call a modern day Supra. I don't know. Now that it's out there, it's in my head now that it's a Supra.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not hoping for something different, Yeah.
So I'm coming to terms with the fact that it's.
Yeah. I'm coming to terms with it. It's not like I'm not like super anti the new one kind of thing that a lot of people are. But yeah, it's interesting the concept going all the way to production. So
yep.
What's next?
Okay. So this one is probably one you don't know about, and this is something that I remember seeing this when it first came out, but I literally haven't seen anything about it until I was looking up concepts like a few hours ago.
Okay.
So this is the Toyota SFR concept.
Toyota.
Yeah. So
I'm already a fan.
Yeah. Right? So SFR stands for small front engine rear drive.
Okay, I could have guessed that part. Yeah.
And essentially, dimensions wise, it's smaller than an FRS, but it's slightly bigger than a Miata.
Okay.
And it's a little bit taller than both of those cars.
I see.
And it was a pure concept, and nothing has been heard about it ever since. I think this is also like at least 4 or 5 years old. But I think it looks really good. And not so much it's just the looks for me. It's like the idea of this type of car that appeals to me. Like a very small, pure, like sports car. Front engine, rear drive is my favorite configuration. And it just looks so fun to drive.
It does look really fun to drive, and it's just interesting. You mentioned the dimensions of it, right? Like, it's definitely built for purpose, which is like kind of how a Miata is built. You're not buying it to do anything but drive and enjoy the driving experience. So that would be pretty cool if Toyota ventured into something like that. Although I don't think it's just in their I'm sure they have a bunch of financial analysts that will tell them not to do this.
I don't see any reason for them to have this car, given that they're the new BRZ/86. That basically is as small of a car as like most Americans will buy.
Yeah.
So like this car would have a very, very small, demand in the United States. I mean, in Japan and Europe, there would probably be more demand because they have narrower roads. And, in Japan, they have the whole K car category.
Yeah.
But out here, like if you're driving this thing on the interstate, you're basically in a death trap.
Run over. Yeah. By a semi or something.
Yeah.
Looks wise for me, I think that's where you're going, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's awesome, and I think you're more in love with the idea, which will probably elevate your score. But me, from just looks alone, and I agree, the concept and the ideal behind it would elevate it for me. But looks alone, I'm not a huge fan of the kind of the front guppy mouth looking thing.
Yeah.
Maybe if they change that up, I would be a little higher. But I'll just give it a 7, a solid 7.
I actually agree.
I like the idea.
I think the guppy mouth definitely doesn't make it look aggressive, but it gives it that like cute Miata. It's
kind of kawaii.
Look. Yeah, it's kind
kawaii,
of
Japanese.
Super kawaii. That's the appeal of the car for me. It's just like something like cute, fun, and like not your daily driver, just something you're going to take out on the weekends.
Got it.
So design wise, I would give it a 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the last concept we have here is the Tesla Roadster, and obviously there's the Cybertruck too. I'm just going to lump those two together.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say much about these other than where are they? Like, like Elon Musk was hyping these up so much. I mean, there's that whole debacle where like he revealed the Cybertruck for the first time, and then he took a hammer to it and the glass actually broke.
Yeah.
And then this is supposed to be a $200,000 hypercar destroyer, like
sub quarter mile in
8.8, like destroyer of everything essentially for less money. Where are they? Like,
yeah, that's a good question. And I think there's only, I don't know if there's been, I think there's been physical versions of both of these, but in terms of production and everything, that's no word. And I think the Cybertruck was supposed to be available like next year or something.
Yeah.
Or like maybe the year after, but I haven't
heard anything.
I mean, they're busy trying to become profitable, which they have been. But yeah, this is just a prime example of why concept cars exist. It's to keep you relevant in the news industry.
Right.
And, they popped up with the Roadster, and then all these people got, hyped over it because it was claiming all these numbers, and then just like, okay, put your money where your mouth is and actually make it. And then the same thing with the Cybertruck. We just haven't heard a lick about it.
A lot of people put deposits out on them, I think.
Yeah, so there's that whole, which is kind of crazy. You're reserving a car that's not even, like, imagine if you try to reserve the next Toyota Corolla. It just doesn't exist. It's just totally against the traditional business model.
Yeah.
But that being said, I do like the look of the Roadster. I think it looks pretty great. Yeah, if we have that top-down view, it being, two-seater, I think that looks really cool. It kind of looks like a soft, like, kind of wimpier NSX. In terms of the if you flash to the concept from the beginning of the smaller S2000, it looks just kind of like a not as cool version.
I was just going to say that.
Kind of like your dad nerdy version of the S2000.
It's not going to make cool sounds.
Yeah, it's not going to make cool sounds. And obviously, they could probably be a little more playful and maybe closer to concept because they have less mechanics or mechanicals to kind of deal with.
Yeah.
It's without a doubt that these Tesla cars are very safe. Just how they're constructed. So these concepts can maybe become closer. So maybe if we were doing this sometime down the road and we rated the actual versus the concept versus the actual, maybe the delta would be a lot smaller.
I think it would be. That's a good point.
So for this one, I'd probably give it a 7. Solid 7. I'd take pretty much almost any other car. Even the yellow one over this, just for fun, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I give it a solid 8 because I do think it looks really good. But I'm just like, come on, like it's been years. Where is this thing?
Yeah, I think they're still on their website. I was checking around, but I'm pretty sure they have other priorities, and we'll see where it comes out. But that being said, this is very. I like that you brought in the one that I had no idea about, and some of these other pictures I either completely forgot about because it's been a while, or that yellow one, which is a cool thing to see. So,
so that's the topic for today's ZCT. Are there any concepts that you guys think we missed out on? I think these were just the top few that came to mind. I know there's been a lot over the years, and also I'm curious to get your guys' opinion on like the new S2000 replacement in just specifically that one. Because there's been so many rehashes of the same rumor. What do you guys think? Is it actually going to come out? What is it going to look like? And like, is it going to have a manual? I guess I don't think these are answerable questions right now. But.
Exactly. And then I think also you have to really think like, hey, like, is there going to be a market down the road for these kind of things? You know, like, I don't know. I don't know if I really see it. And then, I guess the bigger question what will come first, an S2000 or a turboed FRS?
Let's end it with that.
Okay.
All right. See you guys next time.